Substance 2C-T7. Experience. First time. Setting. My home. July 22nd, 2003. A long time ago, way back when I first began my journey of the mind, I heard of a substance called 2C-T7. My first psychedelic had been mushrooms, and following the use of them, I decided to research these drugs further. With the aid of the internet, I discovered the research chemicals. Some of them seemed intriguing, but none stood out to me as much as 2C-T7. I began reading the reports of it, fascinated by the effects this particular drug seemed to induce. I knew it was something I wanted to sample. And then, one day, it wasn't available anymore. I was saddened by this. Although I knew it wasn't a Schedule 1 drug yet, I knew it would be within the next year. I figured I had missed my chance at something I wanted to try so dearly. Then, much time later, after sampling many other chemicals, I happened to have the good fortune of obtaining a very small amount of 2C-T7. Naturally, I was very excited. I knew that this would most likely be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to try this drug, so I decided to wait till I felt it would be appropriate. I wanted a time when I could fully explore the effects and not have to restrict my actions. Finally, the day came. I was left alone in my house for a week. I took a day off work to make sure I would not have any obligations of any kind. I was very excited. However, my excitement also made me worried. I wondered how disappointed I would be if 2C-T7 was not all I had hoped it would be. For this reason, I disregarded my normal dosage technique of starting low, which I still recommend doing, and decided to go straight for a dose of 32 milligrams. I knew it was possible this would be too strong of a dose, and possibly cause a very intense experience. But I felt I was prepared either way. The night before, my girlfriend R had slept over. She had to leave for work at 8 a.m. She would be rejoining me after 5 p.m. I do not sleep all that well next to someone, so I was a bit tired. After she left, I decided to make preparations. I drove to the local grocery store where I bought an assortment of fruit that I like, as well as a bottle of pineapple/orange juice. When I got back home, it was nearly 9 a.m. I went to my room and pulled out my vial containing 2C-T7, and I carefully weighed out 32 milligrams. I rechecked the measurement twice to be sure. I poured the slightly yellowish powder out into a piece of paper. I pushed my finger into it and dabbed it on my tongue. It tasted bad, as do all chemicals, but it had a slight lemon taste to it. Perhaps this was just my mind associating yellow with lemon. I suppose I'll never know. I poured the powder into a shot glass full of water and tossed it down my throat. I drank some soda to chase away the nasty chemical taste. I then looked at the clock. It was exactly 9:15 a.m. I knew this would be a day to remember. I went upstairs and took a shower. I spent more time than usual, as I wanted to fully cleanse myself. After 20 minutes, I got out and came back downstairs. I was beginning to feel a bit of nausea. It was nothing too severe, but I imagined it would only get worse. I had already decided that if I needed to throw up, I would not fight it. I knew the onset would take some time, so I headed out into the warm, sunny outdoors with a book to sit in my garden and read. I have owned Pig Howl for some time now, but never actually read it. I had always just used it for research, to look up details about chemicals. Haven't actually spent the time to read the first part. I found myself enjoying it. What better book to read while coming up on 2C-T7 than something written by the man who invented it? I was reading the chapter called A World of Light, in which Shuda says to Alice that he feels children experience the world as if it were a psychedelic experience, and they lose the magic as they age. I was caught by this theory, as it seemed particularly interesting to me. I remember as a child how I used to see the beauty of everything. I used to run in fields and enjoy rolling in the grass. I used to be fascinated by bugs and how they moved. And now, all that seems to have faded. This theory seems to hold some truth. I also at this point realize I have been thinking about this for 20 minutes and lost track of time. I figure that things are beginning. I check the time and it is 10:25. It has been over an hour and I am definitely at a +1, maybe even a week +2. From the garden I can see my whole backyard, which spans about 50 feet before my house. The grass seems to look crystallized and somewhat translucent. I can seem to analyze a single blade of grass without losing focus on the whole yard. At this point, I pay attention to my stomach, which is now rather upset. I figure it's probably time to go get sick, so I close my book and walk back inside. The journey across my backyard seemed quite long. I can feel the effects stronger now. I wonder just how they have been present in my body, and I overlooked due to my reading. No matter. The only thing that mattered now was clearing my stomach. I open the door to my house and walk in. I head right to the bathroom and lift the toilet seat cover. I lean over to purge, but nothing comes out. Dry heaving is one of the worst feelings in the world, so I try to calm my body a bit for the moment. I look into the mirror as I stand up and see that my pupils have largely dilated. They are much larger than I remembered them being on any other specific psychedelic. I ignore the mirror for now and walk into the kitchen. At this point, things are all starting to come to life. The floor is beginning to take on a pattering effect. It is nothing powerful, but it is noticeably there. Things seem to be breathing and swirling. I cannot get distracted though, as I am on a mission to empty my stomach. I go to my cabinet and get a glass, and return to the bathroom. I turn on the sink and fill my glass with water once, twice, and many more times. I keep drinking as fast as I can. At some point during the drinking, my stomach clenched, and I stuck my head over the toilet just in time for it to collect a good amount of vomit. After pulling my head up and wiping my face, I return to the kitchen, feeling much better. I drink a small sip of pineapple/orange juice to drown out the foul taste. My stomach groans, as I don't think it was ready for a citrus juice just yet. This nausea passes quickly though. It's 11 a.m. and I'm feeling good. I head back outside to listen to some music and enjoy the outdoors. I go back to the chair I had been relaxing in and relax. I push play on my headphones, and Dark Side of the Moon comes on. As I hear the opening heartbeat of the CD, I decide to smoke a clove cigarette. I take out my Zippo and flip it open to light my cigarette, but actually stop for a moment to repeat the snapping open process. It was very pleasing to keep snapping the Zippo open and closed. I noticed I had lost track of time though when the music began and I still hadn't struck a flame. Taking the first drag off the cigarette was very nice. It felt good entering my lungs, and even better blowing it out. I looked over at my cigarette and watched the smoke curling. It coils up into the air from the glowing tip, which seems to be pulsating along with the music. I am definitely enjoying myself now. 11:30 marked the start of my body load. I feel very stimulated, like I need to be doing something. While it's not a load feeling, it is a strong, somewhat annoying body effect. It is not strong enough to where it will interfere with my trip, but it is present. I just close my eyes and let the music take over. The song Us and Them helps paint beautiful pictures behind my eyes. The images spiral and flash brilliant colors. I have never seen such bright colors on any psychedelic. The next song, Any Color You Like, is just as good. The music seems to take me deeper into the trip, as the colors seem to pull me in and embrace me. I fear opening my eyes, as I never want to lose this moment. I finally opened my eyes during eclipse as the CD was ending. The song was so beautiful, bringing such a great resolution to an amazing album. It's almost noon now, and I am beginning to feel hungry. It may be my stomach still feeling queasy, but I hadn't eaten in over 12 hours. I decided I need food whether my stomach wants it or not. I go over my fruit selection and choose a plum and a star fruit. I take them, my CD player with a new selection in it, and head back out to my chair. While I keep getting the urge to do something, I am more than content to just sit and enjoy the day. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. It's a great day to be alive. I start my CD, They Miss the Perfume by the Disco Biscuits, and take a bite of starfruit. I can feel the juices running down my chin and onto my shirt. It matters not though, as the fruit is so delicious. I finish the fruit quickly and move right on to the plum. As I sink my teeth into it, I see bright red juice pour on my hands and shirt. This reminds me of blood, and I stop to reflect on what I am actually doing. I am, in fact, consuming the ovary of a plant, which is the unborn child of the earth. I have much respect for the plum, as it is providing me with nourishment. Upon finishing it, I buried the pit in the garden, thanking the earth for its sacrifice. I look across my yard and now see a row of pines. They were planted by my parents about 8 years ago, so they are still growing. The trees are about 7 feet tall now. I remember the theory Shulgin had that I was contemplating earlier. I looked over at the trees and they began to take a form as giant beings. They appeared to be almost human. They swayed in the wind, but appeared to be dancing for me. I lost track of time again watching this natural ballet. When my CD ended, it disturbed my tranquility, and I returned inside. When I get into my house, I remove my headphones and take time to go down to my basement. The visual aspect is really manifesting now, as the floors all appear to be shifting with patterns. When I reach my basement, I go over and sit in my computer chair. I check IRC to see if anyone I know is online. A few people are talking at the moment, but I soon decide to move on. As I get up, I notice the strongest visual yet. In my basement, there is a closet with double folding doors. The doors seem to be waving in such a manner as though they look as they will fly off the hinges. I walk over to the closet and reach out to the door. As soon as I make contact, it stops. I grab my acoustic guitar and sit down on the couch. My hands seem to know already what song to play. Karma Police by Radiohead starts flowing through my guitar with such beauty that I cannot help but sing along. Now, I am very aware of what my singing voice sounds like, and it is not something anyone should have to endure. But right now, I didn't care. I was alone and happy. As I sang along, I closed my eyes. I began to visualize myself in the music video for this song, which I remember seeing on MTV. The music video consists of the lead singer inside a car and burning. As I reach the climax of the song, I can see the flames rising around me, yet I was not afraid. When I finished singing, I was proud of myself for not only being able to sing/play so well, but being able to project myself into another place. The time approaches 2:30 p.m. I am starting to feel 2C-T-7 a little less. I wonder if I am coming down, or just becoming used to the effects. I decided I should smoke some marijuana to see if it boosts things up. I light up some incense to help mask the smell, even though I am alone. I load my pipe with some plant material and I burn it. The smoke entering my lungs feels much more rewarding than the tobacco smoke I had earlier. Each hit seems to elevate what I am experiencing, ever so slightly. By the time I take the 5th hit, I know I do not need any more. I am feeling the effects stronger than before. I am definitely at a strong +3. I also notice the annoying urge to do things is no longer present. This definitely makes me feel much better. Shortly after 3 p.m., I heard the first clap of thunder. I was still in my basement at this time, so I quickly ran upstairs to see what was happening outdoors. The once bright sky was now replaced with black clouds. I stepped outside and walked into my backyard and turned to see the storm moving in. The clouds moved with such speed. The storm seemed very angry. It moved in and exploded with rain. My backyard, which was brilliantly bright just hours ago, was now being pelted with raindrops. I ran back to the house to seek shelter. When I got inside, I had the urge for a cigarette. I looked back outside and saw the downpour. I then remembered a part of my deck that the roof covers slightly. I grabbed a cigarette, my Zippo, and headed out into the storm. I got pretty wet on my way to the sheltered part of my deck. I forgot how small it was, as I had to push my back against the side of my house to keep dry. I stared out in my yard through the rain. The first thing I noticed is that the tall trees in the back of my yard became dragon-like. Each branch seemed to look like a Chinese dragon. The countless amounts of branches all seemed to be flying after something. When I moved my eyes down to look at the lawn, I saw the most intense visual I have ever seen on any psychedelic. My entire backyard had previously been flowing with patterns, but I watched them all merge into a giant pattern which froze in place. It was no longer shifting, but sitting perfectly still for me to look upon. It resembled a stained glass window of a great cathedral. Now, I cannot even attempt to verbalize this visual, as I'm sure many of you can understand. I stared in awe until thunder startled me. At this point, I felt drawn to the storm. I saw a lightning bolt streak across the sky. The power of the bolt was tremendous, and I could feel it flowing through me. My arms began to feel the urge to rise, so I did not fight them. They ended up in front of me, as if I were holding something, or maybe offering something. I closed my eyes and felt everything melt away. My normal closed eyes hallucination were suddenly replaced by flashes of light. I knew without question what this meant. I was in the eye of the storm. My body had been replaced by pure energy. I was floating through clouds high in the sky. Suddenly, I felt a great rushing sensation. I was the bolt of lightning about to strike. I was propelled forward at light speed, but experiencing it so slowly. I rushed through the clouds faster and faster until I had broken out. I saw a familiar backyard and house. I also was able to make out a person whom looked just like I used to, leaning against the house. I propelled myself at him and made contact, passing all my energy into him. And at that moment, when I came back, a tear rolled down my face. I had never experienced anything like that. I have had out-of-body experiences before, but this was so much more. This meant so much more. I felt I had bonded with the universe for just a moment. That moment, in fact, was more like 30 minutes, but it mattered not. I had just felt one of the most intense, amazing sensations ever since I first started using psychedelics. I then noticed my cigarette was soaked, and therefore unsmokable. I went back inside, very wet, and without any urge to have a cigarette. On the way in, I see one of my cats, who is crying by the refrigerator. He and I don't get along very well. He tends to avoid me at all costs. But right now, he walks up to me and rubs his face against my leg, purring very loudly. I sit down on the floor next to him and pet him. He seems very affectionate to me, which is weird. When I get up to leave, he follows me around. I go down to my basement and I sit on the couch. The cat runs down after me and jumps into my lap. He has allowed me to hold him before, but has never actually chased me down for it. I allowed him to stay. After some time with my cat, I check the clock. It is 4:45 p.m. This means R will be here soon. I quickly walk around the house and tidy things up for her arrival. I was able to finish just in time to see R pull into my driveway. When she walks in, I greet her with a big hug. I can't wait to tell her all about the day I have had and everything I've experienced. Before I begin though, she mentions that she is hungry. I am as well. We decided to order a pizza to be delivered, as I was in no condition to drive and she had just arrived. We went down into my basement and I told her most of what had happened, but keeping a few things for myself. I then shyly asked her if we could make love. I have never had sex on a psychedelic before, and I felt it would be a great idea. She obliged to my request, and within moments, we were stripped and making love. At first, I felt almost animal, as though I must be as powerful as possible, but that quickly passed. I then began to feel myself sink into her, while running my fingers down her back. I felt as though I merged into her, and we became one. I almost became uneasy, as I thought if I'm not careful, I'll go deeper into her and eventually fall out the other side. This thought makes me laugh out loud. She looked somewhat confused by this, but I said not to worry. We finished just in time for the pizza to arrive. The experience with her was amazing, and I will never not forget it. Today was truly a special day. I got to experience all the wonders of 2C-T-7, plus explore it sexually, which I never have had the opportunity to before. It is now 5:45 p.m., and I am at a +2. I am definitely coming down, but the effects have not left me yet. I walk to my back porch and look at the yard. The stained glass visual is gone, and has been replaced with the familiar flowing patterns. I know that I am coming down, but it doesn't disappoint me as much as it usually does. I have had a fantastic day. I am very thankful I was able to finally sample 2C-T7. It truly worked wonders in my body. I sit down with R and eat pizza, which thankfully does not bother my stomach at all. We put on the movie Ocean's 11. I'm not paying all that much attention to the movie. I'm focusing more on having R in my arms. As the movie progresses, a friend of mine, B, calls and asks what I am doing. I told him he was welcome to stop by. B does not use drugs, but respects others' rights to do so. When he arrives, him, R, and myself talk for a bit before deciding to go out to an ice cream parlor where our friends work. The time was just after 8 p.m. My effects are down to a +1 now. Visuals are still there if I concentrate hard enough. Physically, I feel normal. Mentally, though, I am still slightly altered. I have B drive R and myself, because while I think I may have been able to drive, I would not even want to chance it. At the ice cream parlor, I started to develop a headache. It was fairly bad. I wondered if it was from dehydration, as I had not drank too much today, or from the 2C-T-7 itself. I don't concern myself with this now. I talked with some of my friends and ate ice cream, which not only tasted good, but felt good in my stomach. After a few minutes, though, I felt a rumbling in my bowels and excused myself to the bathroom. I had not heard of diarrhea being one of the side effects of 2C-T-7, yet here we are. After being in the bathroom for some time, I finally finish up and join the others. B laughs at me, knowing what I was doing. When the ice cream parlor closed for the night, I offered my house to my friends to come hang out at. Only R, B, and 2 other friends, L and D, come back. It was 10:30 when I got to my house. A full 12 hours and 15 minutes since ingestion. I was still not at baseline, but down enough where I didn't feel the effects were significant anymore. My visuals were gone. My mind was working normally, except for my speech. I had some trouble forming proper sentences, but I spoke well enough where I was understandable. B, R, and L just talked with each other, while myself and D played video games. I was happy having friends around. It was definitely a good way to end the day. Everyone except R left my house a little before midnight. I took 100 milligrams of diphenhydramine to help me fall asleep. I still felt slightly off baseline, nearly 15 hours after ingestion. I felt the medicine would help me overcome the post-trip stimulation and allow me to sleep. After taking the pills, I said goodnight to R and headed into my bed. At around 12:30 a.m., I fell asleep. I woke up at 8 a.m. feeling fine. My headache was not there, which I was afraid of, and I am feeling quite good about myself. I feel ready to take on the world. 2C-T-7 will probably replace 2CI in my heart. While I have not used too many other phenethylamines, I see this one destined to become one of my favorites. The effects of it were so pleasant. I did not feel many of the unpleasant side effects many people have noted. Mentally, it was everything I could have asked for. It wasn't as modest as 2CC was, but not strong enough where I felt I was being pushed. I was shown things and allowed to accept them, or reject them, and change my thoughts. This was a very positive aspect to the trip. The experience of today reopens my interest in 2C-T2. I have tried 2C-T2 once at a very mild dose. While I know they are different pharmacologically, I know that they are often compared and contrasted. I would still like to be able to experience 2C-T2's effects more fully, to see how it would compare with the splendor of 2C-T7. I look back on the phenethylamines I have tried, and I honestly can say that 2C-T7 provided me with the best experience of them all. I would love to compare and contrast, but I feel I would need to try this drug again to truly know its nature. Will the wonderful effects I felt today be repeated in further trials? Only time will tell with this question. However, even if 2C-T7 should let me down next time, the experience of July 22nd, 2003 can never be erased. I am most thankful of the events of the day. I had an amazing experience, and I will always carry that with me.